Hey guys, welcome back to another video. As you can tell by the length, this isn't like other videos, and this time it isn't a compilation of mods that I've showcased in the entire month. Instead, I'm making the entire guide on how to completely modernize your graphics, literally from step 1. I'm starting from 0 mods here. Every mod I use is showcased here and at least talked about. But if I did miss something and you notice it, please let me know down in the comments. I am more than willing to at least admit to my mistake. There's no way I can really edit this video after posting it. But with that being said, if you guys end up enjoying this video or at least finding something a little bit helpful, make sure to hit that like button down below. I greatly appreciate it. And let's dive right in. First, starting off with absolute must-have mods to even begin this list, and short guides for them that need them to install. But first up is unofficial Skyrim Special Edition patch. Now this mod does get on some people's bad sides because of the amount of extra unneeded features it has, but 90% of mods on Nexus require this mod, and if you see that a mod doesn't say it requires this mod, 9 times out of 10 it requires a mod that requires unofficial Special Edition patch. So just make sure to grab it. Also, for those people that downgraded from Anniversary Edition like me to Special Edition, you still want to have the Anniversary Edition content. Unless you deleted that for whatever reason, I don't recommend that, because some very important mods do still require some Creation Club content, so you want to make sure you keep that if you downgrade it. So all in all, even if you did downgrade your Skyrim, do not use the pre-edition USSEP. Grab the latest one. The only issue that you'll have is that loot will tell you that it is messed up. That is perfectly fine. And just one more mod that you want to make sure that you grab, pretty simple. You want to grab Static Mesh Improvement mod. Now this mod can be pretty heavy for lower end PCs because of the amount of polys that this mod adds to your game. But honestly, a lot of retextures and just landscape overhauls require it. So if you can handle it, make sure that you grab it. Or you want to go and grab a lighter version of it, or just pick and choose whatever that mod requires. The next mod you absolutely need is the mod address library. This mod is required by pretty much anything that requires script extender, and we're going to be using that later in the video. While you can avoid this for a while, you will end up needing it eventually, so just make sure to grab it. The best part about address library is it's updated, because it used to have tons of versions and people used to be confused on what to have, but now it has updated to be pretty much an all-in-one, so it's pretty easy to know which one you need and which one you don't. It's literally listed on the label. Up next is another mod that's pretty much going to be required by pretty much everything. It's SSE Engine Fixes. On top of this mod being required by pretty much 90% of mods on Nexus, just like USSEP, Skyrim modding has a lot of acronyms. But on top of just being needed by pretty much everything, it also has a bunch of cool little features. Like with this mod, you can turn off switching POV by scrolling, and you can also shorten your wait time so you don't have to spend 10 minutes waiting on something. This one is a little more complicated to install because it comes with 2 versions, but I'll tell you how. Of course, you're still going to download it like any other mod, but the part that you're going to have trouble with is installing it if you're new to modding. I was still modding Fallout 4, so I still had a Fallout 4 folder open, so you don't have to do this part, but now we go into the Skyrim folder and then we just click save. I'm redoing it because I already had it. But after it finished downloading, like I said, you just want to click on the folder and then open it pretty easily. And once inside, you should see 3 files that you'll just want to extract to your root folder. And the way that the root folder is set up, depending on where you installed it, hopefully outside of program files, you just go to Steam, Steam Apps, Common, and then you should find Skyrim. And you want to just extract it there and then you're done. The way that my folders is set up is because I use Wabajak, so it might be a little different than yours, but you just want to follow that. And we're going to do the exact same thing for script extender. The version of script extender that you want is the one that is listed. It will tell you exactly which one that you need for your version of Skyrim. Even if you downgrade it, you still have the Anniversary Edition content, but you're on Special Edition now, so you want to make sure you grab the one for 1.5.97. But if you didn't downgrade at all, then you want to grab the newest version of Script Extender and just extract it to your Skyrim folder as well. This stuff might seem a little complicated, but once you keep doing it, it's second nature. Now to install Script Extender as an executable, you want to go to your mod organizer like I'm doing now, go to Edit, and then you want to click the little plus and then click Add from File. Of course, if you added it to your Skyrim file root folder, it should already be there for you to click on. And I'm just going to show you how to get to it again. You just go to Steam, Steam Apps, Common, and then Skyrim. And then you find Script Extender. I usually rename this, but I didn't feel like doing that right here because I didn't really need to. It's just to show you what to do. And then I also had issues where I had empty files. If you delete files, ML2 will not let you click apply. But once you get everything set up, if you happen to be like me, then you just click apply, and then you'll be ready to use Script Extender. If you use Vortex, it's kind of the same, just different layout, but you'll follow the exact same steps. And finally, you want to make sure that you grab backported extended ESL support. This is only for those that downgraded or stayed on Special Edition. Somehow you avoided that magical update. When Bethesda updated, it changed the way the ESLs work, so now you can have more ESLs in your mod list without them hindering you too much. But when they updated, it made it so that the new ESLs didn't work on Special Edition. This mod fixes that. So like I said, if you aren't on Special Edition Skyrim, then you don't need this. There are quite a few other utility mods that you're going to need, but we're focusing on the absolute must-have bare minimum for this video. If more utility mods come up as I go that I notice is a requirement, then I will mention them, but we got the complicated ones that you have to put in your root folder out the way, and that was all we needed to do. And we're firstly going to start off with the lighting, because that's kind of the most complicated part, because you end up having to reinstall them multiple times. But we're going to start off with the lighting and show you how I get my lighting set up, because you guys always end up asking me about it. So first, starting off, because we're starting with lighting first because that's the most complicated, we're going to do ENB first, and I personally prefer Cabbage ENB, and not the newest one. ENB should honestly be the last one that you need to put in your root folder. And honestly, you do it just like I showed in the beginning of the video. You just want to download Cabbage ENB. It doesn't necessarily need to be version 1 like me, but if you want your game looking exactly like mine, then you grab version 1. There's 4 options to choose from. There's the base version with the letterbox, and then there's one with the letterbox off. I know how to turn the letterbox off, so I just download the basic version. And then because we're also going to be using Lux, you want to make sure you grab the Lux version. And then honestly, you just grab everything in there, and then just throw it in your root folder the same way that you did everything else in the beginning of the video. If you end up not liking Cabbage ENB, then you don't want to override it with another files. You want to go back into your Steam folder and Skyrim folder and delete everything in there that has to do with ENB, because you want to install ENB also. This one is going to be the most basic one that you're going to have inside of your root folder. But the main difference from downloading ENB and any other version is because you have to download only 2 files. Out of the whole thing, you only needed 2 files, which is the first 2 files right there. That's the main files that every ENB on Nexus needs, and you just want to download and extract those 2 into your root folder. It shouldn't overwrite anything because it's ENB and those mods require ENB. And after that, Cabbage base hotkey to pull up the ENB menu is the N key, but I changed mine to Shift Enter. But after that, you should be perfectly fine to join in game. Honestly, I've probably been using Cabbage ENB since I started YouTube, and people still ask me about it, mainly because when they use it, it doesn't look like mine's. And that's because I used the older version in the older files. The older one didn't have so many requirements. The only known requirement that it had back then was this weather mod, NAT Enb Weathers. NAT Enb Weathers plugin removes that constant blue shader that you were seeing, because the ENB was made with this weather plugin in mind, and NAT was made to be used with any kind of ENB, honestly. Hence why you'll see a lot of mods require NAT ENB, because it's kind of the best one. But without ENB, it would kind of just make your game extremely dim. The only downside to NAT Weathers is the fact that it has a lot of rainy weathers. So you'll get about 5 seconds of sunshine and then 55 seconds of rain. But of course, we're going to move on to the next lighting mods, because I don't want to make this full on showcases, but more so mods that you need and what order to put them in. And as you can see, I am showing Lux, because Lux and Lux Orbis were pretty much made to go with Cabbage ENB. There is a patch for ELFX as shown in the guide before, but mainly it was made with the look of Lux intended. Lux focuses on the interiors of Skyrim, completely revamping lighting sources, but Lux Orbis does the same but for the exteriors of Skyrim. You won't really notice much change to the environment with Lux Orbis. Unless you get near lighting sources, then that's when it really starts to shine, like torches or really lanterns. Most people already know about Lux and Lux Orbis, and really quite a few of these mods already, but that's why this is mainly a guide for people that just want to modernize their Skyrim. But of course, with Lux and Lux Orbis, you also need another mod just to get the whole completed look, which just happens to be Embers XD. With Embers XD, you can either use this as a full-on exterior lighting source, or you can use the installed patch, which patches it for Lux Orbis. But if you do that version, then all you'll get is the new flame textures and also new torch, and as you're seeing, fire pit retextures. But the main reason why you want to use Lux Orbis as an override for Embers XD is because you still get the wonderful textures that you're seeing, but Lux Orbis does more than just change the lighting sources. It also has small fixes inside of it. Like, even though Lux Orbis is claiming to just be a lighting overhaul, it does quite a bit more. Some people would consider that a feature creep, but honestly, Lux Orbis does it in a way that won't hinder you. The next lighting mod though, you don't really see in too many Skyrim mods video. This mod is called Enhanced Volumetric Lighting and Shadows. Also, you might hear it a little bit, but I am still sick. This mod essentially changes the way that Skyrim lighting and shadows are cast to be more reliant on the sun and moon rather than just the time of day that it is. So with this mod installed, depending on the position of the sun, you will get to see a lot more shadows being cast from trees or even people and animals and grass. A lot more shadows. And because it's more shadows, and basically shadows are the biggest cause of FPS drops, lower end PCs might have a little trouble with this. And you'll also notice a bigger hit depending on the time of day. Like for me, the biggest FPS hit I noticed with this mod is around 8 AM. But that's because that's when the sun is just starting to rise, and that's when the most shadows are. And honestly, that was pretty much it for lighting mods, at least the essential ones. Of course, there's other ones that you can add on top of it. But now we're going to start talking about the texture mods, just to throw in all the big ones that you need to at least get started. And the main big texture mod I use, unlike most people using Skykings, I use Skirkbro's retexture project all in one. And even though it says all in one, it's not just a one-click download. It comes in separate packages such as architecture, dungeons, or just really mountains. Everything is pretty much separated. All are pretty big, but I guess it's separate just so you can choose what you want and don't want so you don't have to struggle. And for those people that don't use Parallax for FPS reasons, it still looks amazing as I'm showing right here. I don't have Parallax enabled, but I'd be lying if I said these textures didn't look at least 20 times better with Parallax enabled. So if you can handle it, I definitely recommend turning it on just for this all-in-one. Also, one quick disclaimer, I do not use the landscapes from this because that would be unnecessary because we have another all-in-one for that mod. This comes in 4 packages. All you'll want is the architecture, the dungeons, and the miscellaneous stuff. I'm not sure I can vouch for exactly the walls of SRP, that's the short version of what it's called. But the floor tiling that this mod has with Parallax is some of the best that you'll find on Nexus, and it's not really complicated to get set up. You don't need a bunch of different mods just to patch it and make it work. Up next, a mod for the rocks of Skyrim called Enhanced Rocks and Mountains. This mod is a retexture at base, but the main reason why you want this mod is because it smooths out rocks around the landscape so they actively blend with the environment instead of sticking out like a sore thumb. Like in the side by side, you can see that to blend it, it adds a bunch of little small rocks around it that make it just blend better, for lack of better words, honestly. The best part though I could say is that it doesn't do it for every single rock that's standing out in the landscape. It only blends the ones where it makes sense. It's one of those mods that you add and kind of forget about until you realize that you don't have it anymore. This next mod though does it, but on a much bigger scale. This next mod is called Terrain Parallax Blending Fix. When you turn on Parallax, some of the landscape wasn't exactly blended correctly, so some things will stand up halfway and then the other part will be flat, and then it doesn't look right. So this mod kind of fixes that, at least within Bethesda's rules. It also does something with the water lines in Skyrim, but as you're seeing, things are purple. And the reason that it becomes purple is because if you're using or not using a retexture that has parallax in the landscapes, it makes it purple because it needs parallax to actually work. Which brings me to my next mod, which is called Tomatoes Complex Parallax Material Landscapes all in one. Kind of a tongue twister or just a very long title. Either way. But this mod is the reason we didn't need the landscapes from SRP all in one. This mod retextures every part of Skyrim landscapes, including the DLC landscapes as well. Most all-in-ones separate them for some reason, but this one has it all in one. The parallax on this retexture is definitely some of the best I've seen on landscapes, mainly due to the fact that most of them was made before 2024. But like I said, unless you're super experienced at modding and know how to mix and match textures, this is definitely going to be the best that you can get, at least just right off the top. I am going to add and say right here though that this is my own personal opinion. Of course, these are textures. You can choose not to have them or just go and find ones that you like yourself. But after trying so many textures and all-in-ones, I can honestly say, after all the Nexus accounts I've had and lost for some random reason, I've probably tried all of them. The only issue you'll get is those weird blue mountains, which we fix with the next mod, which is called Auto Parallax. I'm not going to act like I know exactly how this works, But I do know that it fixes the issue by disabling parallax where it doesn't exist, so you don't get those blue mountains. But it does keep parallax enabled where it should exist. Another thing you'll begin to notice is that now your snow on mountains isn't the same color as other snow on the ground, and to fix that you just need one simple mod called Simplicity of Snow. Besides just fixing your snow shaders, it also adds immersive changes to snow, like adding better placement of snow. Like you'll notice at certain entrances to places that are frequented quite often, the building will have normal farmhouse textures towards the entrance or just the walkway, because like I said, NPCs are there quite often, so it wouldn't really make sense for snow to still be there. Most people also don't know that this mod does work with no snow under the roof, but no snow under the roof has been kind of abandoned as of late. There's not too many patches for it, so I would say avoid that mod if you don't know how to patch your own list. And now we're going to fix one more issue you're probably noticing, which is the roads. If you just grab the next mod, Blended Roads, it doesn't matter which version you grab, either Blended Roads, which is the more performance friendly, or the more blended option, which has the rocks raised up a little more, which costs more FPS. But it will, without a doubt, fix your road patches that you're seeing. I didn't mention it beforehand, but Tomato Landscapes kind of does require blended landscapes. Sometimes, like if you use Skyking all-in-one, it already has blended roads inside of it somehow. But Tomato Landscapes doesn't do that, so you need to download the mod itself. Okay, now moving on to the next mod, some of the best cave textures. This mod is simply called Parallax Caves. Cave retextures is probably something I've downloaded dozens of times testing, but this is one I frequently come back to. It's basically just taking the vanilla caves, enhancing on the textures of them, and then just throwing parallax on top of it to make it 10 times better. This is basically the perfect retexture if you're looking to keep that Skyrim feel while also feeling like it's at least retextured, because everything else looks good, so shouldn't caves as well. And also, if you're wondering, SRP Dungeons does not touch caves, it only touches mine shafts, if that makes sense. I don't know why they're different, but they are, for me at least. Okay, now for the reason I didn't show SRP Farmhouses. This mod is called Writing Farmhouses version 3. I'm still not entirely sure why Writing doesn't just make updates to his already farmhouses, he makes it a completely separate mod. This mod retextures farmhouses, but keeps them kind of vibrant. The wood isn't dim like most farmhouse retextures, and the rocks on them for the walls have parallax and also have a little bit of color to them. And I prefer this more vibrant look because I generally go for a vibrant environment. And because the wood is still close to brown vanilla Skyrim, a lot of retextures for fences or anything really go with this mod without any extra work. Up next, a retexture for Nordic temples. This mod is called Temples of the Ancients. It used to be called Venerable Nordic Temples, but it was renamed. Not so recently, but I was used to the old name. So I am sorry if I gave you the old name and you couldn't find it. This mod does have options for 1K, 2K, and 4K, but the way that Nordic temples work is that the textures are very stretched, kind of like mountains, so you want to make sure that you grab the 4K version. They're very rare to run into, so a lot of them on your screen won't hurt your FPS. So you want to make sure you got the 4K version, at least so it looks good. And I say the same for mountains. If you can grab 8K mountains, I recommend that. No lower than 4K though. But up next, one for the stone walls, which is called Nordic StoneWalls. But you want to make sure that you grab version 1. Version 2, while it does look amazing, but if you have a mod that's something for a horse stable, adds more of those around Skyrim. Mainly you see those in bandit camps, but if you use version 2, horse stables will start floating in the air and there's no fix for it. And a companion mod for that is Nordic StoneWall Terraces. You rarely see these around Skyrim, so you can pick whatever resolution you want because they're pretty small, but they also have parallax textures, and they also have a little bit of a mossy effect to them that makes them look old. They definitely blend well with the environment, but it's already been retextured with other mods in this list. It's not necessary, but it's one of those mods that I ended up loving, so I added it here. But the next mod I would say is necessary because it retextures Nordic ships. This mod is called Realistic Nordic Ships SSE. Well, because it is made by JP Steel, it hasn't been updated in a while because I believe they are taking a break. But the main reason why this mod needs patches is because not only does it retexture, it also remeshes and changes the height of boats. So if you have a mod that adds new boats to Skyrim or just any quest mod, normally they have clutter based on the original boats and not the remesh, so it can cause floating or maybe a lot of water into the ship. And I don't know about you, but it's not really a ship if it's sinking 24/7. So yeah, this mod needs patches, but it's definitely worth it. just like this next mod, which is called My Road Signs Are Beautiful. Well, technically this mod doesn't require patches, it just retextures the road signs around Skyrim. It also has patches for new towns around Skyrim. But another must-have retexture mod is Skyking Signs. I've found myself reviewing this a few times recently, but this mod retextures the signs around Skyrim. Some of them are pretty generic unfortunately, but that's because this is a generic shop. But the main ones and the main ones that you're going to see, like the ones in Whiterun, all have unique textures and designs that fit the image that was originally there in Skyrim. This one just makes them a lot more vibrant and modern. Well, I guess modern is subjective. But moving on to our next mod, which is much bigger than the previous ones. This mod is called Glorious Doors of Skyrim. This mod has updated over time to include an all-in-one for door retextures around Skyrim. Every city has their own custom doors, from Whiterun to even pretty much every city, and even bandit camps have their own custom doors. This mod, even though it is an all-in-one, it comes in an installation where you pick every door that you do and don't want, and if you choose not to have a door, you're kinda yelled at by the mod author, but it's kind of cute. The only door that I would recommend not to have is the farmhouse doors, because they already come included with riding farmhouses and they blend better. But the best part about these doors is that most of them come animated like you're seeing with the Nordic tomb door. I mean, this can cause you to die a lot more if you're trying to run for your life, because you have to wait until the animation's finished, but from a cinematic view, they look amazing. Also, the texture resolutions are also included in the file, that's why the file download size is so big. I generally recommend to pick 2K for the smaller doors, such as city interior doors, like ones that lead into Bannered Mirror, or really just any interior. And because we're rapid firing here, the next mod you want to grab is Rugnarok. Honestly, this mod is not 100% needed, but there are some rugs in Skyrim and Vanilla that are absolutely horrid. So you need this mod to retexture those rugs so that you never have to not look down. And I'm also going to be honest here, there is another rug texture that is on Nexus, but I've honestly never used that one. I've never had a reason to, because Rugnarok is amazing. Just like Peltapalooza, made by the same person. There is another Pelt mod for this, but you really don't need it when you have this mod available. Mainly because Peltapalooza has a bunch of complex parallax patches add-on, so you definitely want to grab this for the most variety. Of course, because these are so rare also, you can choose whatever texture resolution you want, but you won't be looking at your feet too much, so maybe not go for the 4K version and just stick with 2K. And for the fences, I choose to go for SD farmhouse fences. I use version 2 because it reminds me of what I would see in most modern games, but as you can see, like I said, the wood, even though it is a little more riding farmhouses, even though it's darker, you could definitely still see a close resemblance without you having to put in any extra work, just like you'll need for SD Horn Candles SE. And as you can tell by the title, it's made by the same mod author. Honestly, these are my favorite horn candle retextures. There's a few on Nexus, but these by far look the best and still fit Skyrim theme. It's a good thing that I'm going to include a lot of timestamps considering how fast I'm moving. Like, we're going to move on to the next mod right now for the furniture of Skyrim, and for that, without all the extra mods, I use Skyrim 3D furniture. There's a lot of little furniture mods I would use, like from SSE Engine. I pretty much use all of their mods as of right now, but if you just want a bare minimum, then you 100% are going to want to grab Skyrim 3D furniture. It pretty much retextures every piece of Skyrim furniture. Some of them I would say add a retexture on top of it. But like I said, this is the perfect bare minimum because it fits with pretty much every retexture. And even though it is probably one of the oldest mods of this list so far, it's definitely one of the best looking. I believe as soon as I switched to PC, this was one of the first mods I used and just never got rid of. The only thing that surprises me about this mod is the amount of people that don't use it. But up next we have Rudy HQ Miscellaneous. This mod does quite a bit, honestly, that's why it's named Miscellaneous, but most people download it for the new candle textures, but you also get new silverware textures. In vanilla Skyrim, even with static mesh replacer, they're quite jagged and look pretty bad, but with this, they're retextured perfectly. They have a new shine to them, and they also have pretty good curves, if that makes sense. Not sure how many polys these have, but it definitely looks a lot better than what you'll see in vanilla Skyrim. And honestly, that was pretty much it for textures, at least for things that aren't people. Now we're going to do armors and armor retextures. And of course, we're going to start off with the main one that everybody knows. We're going to use the mod Rustic Clothing to retexture the clothings of Skyrim. Now this might officially be the oldest mod that I'm showcasing, but honestly, it's still one of the best clothing retextures. I mean, not that we have any other option, honestly. Xavbio hasn't gotten around to doing clothing. He's done robes, but not clothing. Maybe soon though. I honestly have no idea how many mods this is going to be by the end of this video. I haven't even done gameplays this long, but here I am doing a showcase almost over 40 minutes. But either way, I'm rambling about things that don't matter. These retextures add a lot more detail to the regular clothing that you'll see NPCs using. Generally, you have your own custom clothing mod, or you're just using armors, which you'll retexture next. But if you want an all-in-one clothing mod without grabbing a bunch of different ones and then trying to ignore the ugly ones, then you need Rustic Clothing. But if you want to retexture all your armor mods, then you want to grab Xavbio retextures. Unfortunately, he hasn't made an all-in-one, but honestly I'm not even sure an all-in-one is going to be possible, considering every one of the mods are at least close to 1 gigabyte, and there's well over 10 or 12, so this mod put into an all-in-one for 4K textures, which I advise avoiding unless you have a 4090. It's probably going to be around 20 gigabytes to download all of it, but I don't think it's ever going to be an all-in-one either way. Xavbio has pretty much retextured every armor in Skyrim, adding darker textures to them, and some metal mods also have complex materials that make them react to the lighting, which is pretty cool to look at. But if you don't want that, then it's not forced on you. Every single installation for the retextures of these armors have a lot of different options and also patches for newly added armor. Like if you have Norwar armors, he's also updated many of his armor mods now to include those so that it retextures them as well. I believe he's done iron and steel so far, but many more are coming. Xavbio is fully honestly the only reason why I still use vanilla armors, because before there was only one option for retextures for them, and it didn't cover every single armor, so some of them were left ugly. But now with Xavbio picking up the torch and just retexturing everything for us, he's made vanilla Skyrim more viable. Before Xavbio, Norwar was pretty much the only option for me if I wanted to use any type of armor. But next up, speaking of armor, I'm going to introduce a new guard armor, one that I personally made myself and you guys usually ask about. This armor is called Vanilla Guard Armor Remastered. I generally never showcase this because I'm not really into self-promotion like that, but you guys usually ask me about it. And all I did with this mod with permission is combine varied guard armors with Terra 1 guard armors. He preferred that I link to his mod, but I don't think it was really possible, with the light armor variant being Terra 1 and the heavy armor being varied guard armors. They're pretty much open permission. Terra would have preferred that I link to his mod, but it was kind of impossible, like I said. But if they ever come back and just let me know that they still would prefer it and me to take down my mod, then I would willingly do that because it's not that important to me. People also requested that I turn this into a sky patch, but as you can see, I keep making videos like this, so I really don't have the time. But as you can see, every single guard armor has guard armor based on the hold that they protect. The only issue with this armor is that it didn't come with 2 armors for Stormcloak, so I had to grab another mod, which was called Stormcloak Battle Armor Replacer. Terra 1 guard armors didn't include Stormcloaks, unfortunately, so I couldn't find another mod to replace it with open permissions. So I advised just to grab this second mod and add it on top of it, because it is vanilla plus and it still has assets of Stormcloaks. This mod though, also not necessarily needed, but this mod is called Fear the Forsworn. I got tired of my Forsworn being pretty much 90% naked, especially the females, so I decided to add this mod. Even though it doesn't support any body slide, it pretty much gives them vanilla body. There's no patch for that yet. It does give them a lot more clothing and helmet options, so they all aren't wearing the same thing. It would definitely be great if this mod brought this mod more attention so they can get more patches made for it, because I definitely don't have the time to make my own personal patches. And now we got mods just for retextures for animals. Honestly, pretty simple ones that most people know about, but these are the best ones that I can think of that are in my mod list. Firstly, starting off with the Frost Giants, with pretty much the only option available, Frost Giant Overhaul by Mihao. There's honestly been 0 retexture for Frost Giants in Skyrim, but this is the only option available. And some say that it looks a little too cartoony, but honestly, I don't think if there was another retexture made that it would be better than this. This is as good as it's going to get for them. The only downside to this mod is that there is no unique variants. Even Karstag is going to look exactly like a vanilla or normal Frost Giant. Honestly, I don't see that as too much of a downside. But up next, a retexture for wolves. This mod is called Simply Better Wolves. Correct me if I'm wrong, but these wolves do remind me of the wolves from Witcher 3. But this mod retextures wolves from being just a skinny, stringy animal that's in Skyrim that somehow can almost one-shot you, to being completely fluffy. It also gives them new sizes. Before they were a little smaller, but now they're pretty huge. Of course, they're still smaller than wolves that you will see in real life. Haven't found real skeleton models for them yet, but for the most part they do look a 10 times scarier. But at the same time, if they stop snarling at you, then it will look adorable. And that fits in nature. The most adorable things are the most deadly. But up next, one for a more deadly looking creature. Skeletons SE by Fourth Unknown. A fairly new mod, but it retextures and remeshes every single skeleton in Skyrim, even the dead skulls that are just placed on the ground. If you use a mod such as the Restless Dead like me, then you will need a patch, but luckily one was already made maybe a few weeks after this mod came out, so there's no reason you shouldn't already be using a skeletal retexture. I mean, there are skeletal options other than this, but honestly, this one is the most modern and best looking one, in my opinion personally. But a mod to pair with this for the Draugrs, this mod is simply called Draugrs SE by Mandragora Sprout. And just like skeletons, if you have the Restless Dead, a patch was also made for that, so all the Draugr variants in that mod will use these new textures. These retextures basically just enhance on the fact that Draugrs are basically mummies. Their skeletons are now showing a little bit, especially around the ribs, because they still have a little skin, otherwise they would just be skeletal enemies. I think this is only the third Draugr retexture that's come out on Nexus in over a decade. It's kind of crazy. But up next is a new mod called Trolls SE, also by Fourth Unknown, giving trolls a completely new texture and mesh, as well as making them a little fluffy. It does retexture the frost and the normal cave troll variant. The only thing that you'll notice in this one is that my trolls are a lot smaller than previous videos, and that's because that is a skeleton mod called Tyrannical Trolls, which I showcased in my last video. Make sure to check that out if you want that mod. But what I can say is that this mod does make trolls a little bigger. In vanilla Skyrim, they're just small humans honestly, but with this, they're kind of buff. The next mod, also by Fourth Unknown, which is called Spriggans SE. Fourth Unknown has kind of been on a roll. This mod gives Spriggans a completely new body mesh, making them look a little more human and also more feminine. I wouldn't be surprised if someone found a way to add these to MNC. Not gonna say what that is. If you don't know, it's probably for the best. But yes, this retextures every version of Spriggans, even the burnt ones that you'll see in the DLC that not many people talk about. But up next, a mod that you can't even get on Nexus for horses. This mod is called Shingles Cat Horses SE. This horse retexture was originally made for a Legendary Edition Skyrim, and you can just add a patch on top of it, also included with the main file, to make it for a Special Edition. This retexture is definitely the best horse textures that I've seen, and it's not even on Nexus, unfortunate. And of course, because it's also an animal in my eyes, we have to retexture dragons. And of course I have to go with, honestly, is it a classic at this point? But we have the mod Game of Thrones Dragons SE. Fourth Unknown did come out with a dragon model replacer, but honestly, I still prefer this one as of right now because it has more variety. Every dragon has their own unique texture, and there's also multiple resources out there that people have taken and mixed together so that they can make their own dragon variants, so no dragon should look the same unless you did that to yourself. The only bad part is that there's really no all-in-one. It used to be one, but it got deleted off Nexus, so you had to kind of make your own combination of dragons here, but you'll have fun doing it. And now we're pretty much getting into the main stuff that I know you guys are here for, the environment. And we're pretty much going to start off small, and then we'll get to the bigger stuff such as trees. But firstly, like I said, we're going to start off with flora and mainly be flowers. For the flowers, you mainly want to grab all of the Cathedral Flowers from Dr. Jacopo. Probably said his name wrong. He'll probably let me know. Honestly, I don't think he's ever commented on my video and let me know if I pronounced his name wrong. But yes, I'm going to link their mod page and their profile rather than every single individual flower, because you'll just want to go down the list and just make sure you download every single one of these because they're the best on Nexus, and unless you feel like downloading something about 3 gigabytes, which is Skyrim 3D trees and plants, then this is pretty much your only option. But honestly, when your only option is so good like this, then there's really no need to complain. Just make sure you download those. The only thing I would say to mix up is the mountain flowers. There's so many options for that. Like my personal favorite, because it just released, is Skyking Mountain Flowers. I also like another one, but that requires some other things, so I'm not going to get into that one yet. But mainly, I like the Skyking Mountain Flowers. On the mod page, this mod does say it requires base object swapper, but it's not needed. You could just download this retexture and be good to go. And up next, an all-in-one shrub replacer. This mod is called Shrubbery Symphony Enhanced Greenery. This mod also doesn't require base object swapper, but I highly recommend it because it will go around replacing every single plant in Skyrim with its own meshes and textures. Without the base object swapper version, you'll just get the same old copy and paste everywhere, instead of unique variants and random placements. The biggest issue as a disclaimer to you is that sometimes this mod, because it uses base object swapper and relies on vanilla landscapes, without a patch sometimes you can't see objects floating, but that's generally not an issue because of the patches already made for it. So next I'll talk about a controversial mod I use, which is remove useless plants high compatibility. With the high compatibility version, it pretty much removes all plants in Skyrim, or at least hides them, that hasn't been retextured, so you don't have to worry about anything that has been retextured by Cathedral Flowers going missing. It only hides the ones that has no texture and is still vanilla. On to the important stuff in my opinion, starting off with water. And of course I use water for ENB, and I personally use the Shades of Skyrim version, which means that every single region of Skyrim will have different colors for it, which also means there will be a little more incompatibilities, but of course there's a bunch of patches already made for it, considering this is the main water version of Skyrim. Of course, if you can't let go of the patch, you can still use Realistic Waters. That one actually just updated and still works perfectly fine. I just feel like water for ENB is the more modern version that everyone should try. But the next mod that you're going to want to grab is Natural Waterfalls. This mod and water for ENB is pretty much made to go together. It removes those ugly waterfalls that you see inside of Skyrim that look plastic and superficial, and actually makes them look realistic. Anyone who uses natural waterfalls will know if you go back to vanilla Skyrim, it just won't feel the same, and it's not going to feel good at all. With water out the way, because it's honestly pretty simple to set up, we're going to talk about grass, and honestly, before I tell you what grass I have, I'm going to tell you how to set it up, because that's the most complicated part of it, honestly. Okay, so now we've pretty much gotten to the last complicated part that you want to do for Skyrim. Because when you use a mod like Nolvus Grass Mashup, you need to ESL or compact the ESL files for Nolvus to overwrite it. Otherwise, you're going to get a black screen. So you first want to start off with SSE Edit. And you can pretty much put this anywhere. Once you download it, you just want to make sure you download it. But once you download it, you wait for it to finish extracting. Before I just voiced over, but now I'm actually doing it live. But just take this entire folder once you open it and extract it pretty much anywhere. Just don't put it in program files. You can just put it in Windows right there and just call it a day. It just needed permission, that was all, and then you just go to the file. And once you have it downloaded, you just pretty much go to your files, open up File Explorer, and then find wherever you put it. I generally, as you see, I have a modding folder. My real one is in there, but just for the video, you go to this and then you just copy this link just to make it easier to get to. I mean, not that it was going to be hard to get to before, but yeah, you just make it easier for yourself. And then the same way that we did the previous mods that I put in here before, which was script extender before, but now we're going to add SSE Edit. Which, like I said, is pretty simple. You could just, like mods is just like that, but if you wanted to just skip that, you could just copy and paste it from here to here, and then you're good to go. Sometimes you do have to put this right here, but you don't really need that right now. And then you just click apply and then okay. I'm not going to do it because I already have a version of it and that I can launch already. You typically want to do the same with SSE Edit Quick Clean, but we're not doing that in this video. So once you add it as executable, you just click run and then it should open for you. And now we just need these grass mods because for Nolvus it needs quite a few grass mods for it to actually work. You can disable everything else. Select all. It should do that. The best part about SSE Edit is that you could just highlight everything and then just click one and then it disables everything. But yeah, we just need these four, so you just wait for it to load and then open. Once everything is done, it's pretty simple. You just leave this part alone. Mines are already compact for ESL, but the main thing that you want to do is just right click any of these. Don't do all of them at the same time. Like I have a water for ENB patch, you don't need to ESL that, but these four, like 6, but can't highlight all of them and then compact for ESL because that's going to not work. It's only going to do the first one the last one that you clicked on, even though you highlighted all of them. So you need to go through each one of them and then click compact for ESL. If it doesn't have the option, that means it's already done for you, which some of these mods already come like that. But most of them don't, so you want to find compact form IDs for ESL, and then click that, and then click absolute. If it says nothing to do, that means it's already done, which mine already is. But for all of them, yes, you just want to go through and just click compact for ESL. And then once you do that, you could also, because they're now ESL, you could go to record flag in all of them. And then you can mark it as ESL so it doesn't take a place up in your load order, because MO2 will still count it as a ESP, but you can just mark it as an ESL now because it technically is, and nothing will break if you do that. But that's not really necessary. That's up to you to do. It's just like I said for ML2 to stop counting it as an ESP. And then you just click exit, and then you click save, and then everything is done for you. Like I said, you want to make sure you do that to all the requirements of Nolvus Grass mashup, and then you should be good to go. Okay, back to the grass, and as most of you know, because I always tell you, the main grass mod that I use is Nolvus Grass mashup. And of course you saw it in the guide, but that's the one that I use. If you don't set it up correctly, if you don't follow that guide exactly right, even though it's a few steps, you will have a black screen. Well, technically it's not a black screen, you'll just have an infinite loading main screen, and sometimes you'll crash. So make sure you do it right. With Nolvus Grass mashup taking the best from pretty much every one of the grasses that it uses, and it's quite a few. And honestly, it's actually a lot lighter than it used to be. It used to be very heavy because it was made for a heavier list, because we all know what Nolvus is. It's pretty much the mod list that got everyone into Wabajax. And because it was made by Vector and he already had a good PC, if you didn't have one as well, it was pretty much no way you were going to be able to play it above 30 FPS. But over time, he's made it a lot more FPS friendly, hence why there's been grass changes. Like if you check old Nolvus compared to now, it's a lot different. Another thing about this grass mod is that it doesn't come with the green tundra. Originally, it's part green and part brown, like an original tundra. Most people think it's completely yellow because of Skyrim, but honestly, you'll see a lot of different vibrant colors in a tundra, and that's what Nolvus goes for. But it does recommend for you to use Folkvangr Summer Tundra. As you can see, the green version and the original version both look perfectly fine, but as the mod page suggests, this is the intended look. You can go either way, but if you prefer a green tundra, then just grab the green tundra version. There's a few other grass combinations that you can use on Nexus, but Nolvus is definitely my favorite. But now that you know the ESL mods, it's pretty simple to choose which ones you want. So now we can move on to tree mods, which I prefer Fabled Forest. Fabled Forest is definitely the perfect example of what you can turn Skyrim into without destroying your FPS completely. Of course, because it makes your forest a lot more dense and it adds a lot bigger trees, honestly. You can choose vanilla portions, but it wouldn't really be Fabled Forest if you did that. But with the extra tree placements, what I believe is using OVERHAULS and its own on top of it, you're going to have a lot more trees and a lot denser forest. And yes, denser is a word, do not correct me on that, I did Google it. And as you can tell, it uses happy little trees for its textures, but it has its own placement, which makes it a completely separate mod. If you want a lighter tree overhaul, you can definitely go with happy little trees, but if you want a complete new feel to your Skyrim, while still making it feel like Skyrim, then this is the perfect tree mod that you're going to want to have. It's kind of nostalgic to be reviewing this mod again. It's been a while, and I think it was one of my first big mods that I showcased. Mainly because it had just came out and a lot of people ended up loving it, which means that a lot of people ended up watching that video even though it was terrible quality. Kinda like this one, but this one is a little better than that one. And also, as a personal side note, if you don't like the rift trees, what I personally do is I add Aspens Ablaze. It also has a patch for Aspens Ablaze as well, so they're kind of meant to go together if you want it to. But they are a lot heavier in FP. But if you have a strong PC, then listen to this tree combo that I have for you. First, you want to grab Nature of the Wildlands, which is a great tree mod by itself. And then you will also want to grab Nature of the Wildlands Light, which has been deleted, but if you know how to get deleted mods, then you can still find and get it. I'll try and get it and link it, but no guarantees. But you want to add on top of that, traverse the Ovenwald. And then you get Ovenwald extra tree placements with Nature of the Wildlands beautiful trees, shrubs, and then you get also Ovenwald's extra shrubs on top of it. You're pretty much getting the best of everything combined into one. This is pretty much what you'll see most of the main big modders and Wabajax users using, so I just wanted to tell you how to get it. Now, I will say I'm not entirely sure why Nature of the Wildlands Light got deleted. It might have been for issues like maybe with Dying Dulad, but I can't be sure of that, which is why I won't upload it. I'll try and find it. And also because I don't want to steal their hard work. Because once you get blackballed on Nexus, then you're pretty much done with the modding community. But Traverse the Overworld and Nature of the Wildlands both come in 4K textures, so if you add a lot of extra tree placements, also with 4K textures, your FPS are going to get utterly destroyed, which is why I say use a high-end GPU, or at least know how to downscale mods. But I'm not going to teach that here. And there we go, that was pretty much it. We started from zero, or at least I started from zero, and added every single mod and showed you which ones I was adding, and explained why. All you want to do now is make sure you go through your patch hubs, such as Lux patch hubs or Embers XD. You want to make sure that you reinstall those so that you can patch anything else that might have needed patches that we didn't add yet. And then once you have all the patches added to your mod list, all you want to do is just make it your own. You don't want to keep it exactly the same as mine because I have a bunch of little small mods that I didn't include here that complete it. So make it your own, but this could be a bare-based minimal. I can't believe I just made an almost hour-long guide and mod showcase. But if you guys ended up enjoying, make sure to hit that like button down below. I might do a gameplay version of this, almost an hour long if I get the courage to. But as of right now, I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Peace and love, guys.